So then do you think that education is overpriced?
Yes. 100%. You cannot skirt around doing the work, and you cannot skirt around having a practical plan that works for yourself.
Yeah, works for you.
You know, let's actually talk about it. Why is it that educated women are always seen as a threat?
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee, and we are your online big sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's conversation, we are going to be talking about education and academic success. Many of you have asked us over the past few weeks, and today we're going to be unpacking our university experiences. We're also going to be talking about the utility of education for women in today's world. To be a boss babe, do you really have to have a degree?
Nice.
I'm really excited for this one,
This is
Courtney.
going to be good. This is going to be
Got
good.
my specs on, you know, I'm ready. But before we go into the meat and bones of the conversation itself, we have a what? Ding, 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 dilemma.
It's a dilemma.
So, hey sisters, hey girl.
Hey, sweetie.
Love your channel and everything TMS stands for.
Oh.
It feels like a breath of fresh air and the content I never knew I needed.
Oh,
Dude, stop
so
it.
nice.
That's so nice. So sweet. For my dilemma, I'm a grown woman in my late 20s, and I really appreciate that sisterhood, as you guys promote, is an important relationship to cultivate. I love your friendship. However, I'm a little bit nervous to shoot my friendship shot. I don't have old friends like that are super close to me. How and what do you recommend for sisters who are looking to grow greater intimate friendships?
Oh, wow. That's actually so nice. I love that. Shoot your friendship shot.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I think it's literally as simple as like anyone around you, in proximity to you, who you think is cool, send them a message. Just be like, hey, like I really admire what it is that you're doing. Obviously, you don't say I would love for us to be friends. That's so primary school. But like, do you want to go out for a coffee? Is there any way that I can support you? Could we just like kind of catch up and I want to know more about your story and if there's any way that I could help. And I think that those genuine initiations of letting people know that sincerely you want to be a part of their life in some way and just be a part of their journey and their story, and just making those intentions clear, keeping your heart pure, and just being available to help in whatever capacity you can, builds nice and strong relationships. Share your personality, share your humor, bond, have laughs, go to the cinema, build
100%.
Memories and experiences, and it builds up over time. I mean, we've been friends for about 7 years, something like that. Yeah, so it built with experience, and with time you build memories, you go through certain seasons together, and that's what solidifies, strong friendship and sisterhood. But it starts with just putting yourself out there, not being too shy. Absolutely. And letting somebody know, I am open to being a friend and then being friendly to people. 100%. How about you? What do you think?
I think that's beautiful. And first of all, I just want to acknowledge that this is such a lovely question. Like,
it's
I think
really nice.
Honestly, we focus so much on romantic relationships that we just forget like sisterhood and friendships and all that kind of
and
stuff.
how important it is.
It's so much fun as well. Like, I
it's
promise
so
you,
true.
it's great.
It's so
I would
true.
say I definitely resonate with everything that you said. I really approach it as you would approach dating almost.
Yes.
Be super intentional about asking people for their time and say, hey, as Courtney said, I'd like to catch up over coffee or maybe just have a conversation and really talk and get to know the person first. Like, it's basically almost, having a double audition for like a sister or a role in your family.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool to be able to do that with somebody. So
100%.
go somewhere nice, or even do an activity if you feel that comfortable. Go bowling or something competitive, so that there's not so much pressure to speak. And I find that when you go on activity dates with people, you really get to know the real them. Because when someone's in competition, when you're fighting them, that's when you see the real them.
It's so true.
So try and do something fun, and make yourself uncomfortable in that, like taking that first move. You'll definitely don't see yourself as a beg, because I feel like a lot of people aren't super forthcoming with friendships and linking with other people because they feel like they're gonna seem like a beg.
Yeah, seem annoying,
Exactly.
or like they're just trying to leech.
Exactly. So I would definitely say reach out. Having said that, make sure you've established some kind of foundation or reason for reaching out as well. Because sometimes it can be a bit weird if like you're just reaching out to somebody random. They've never interacted with your content. They've never like you've never interacted with them in any kind of setting.
Yeah.
You have no mutual friends.
Yeah.
Make sure that there's some kind
This
of
is it. You need
setting
proximity.
there. Exactly.
I think when it comes to, you can, like, for example, I often will get people message me who are like watchers of my content. They'll be like, can we be friends? It's hard to be friends when there's no proximity to each other. Like, obviously we're your online big sisters and you can have that through media and all of those things. But to actually be sisters and to be friends, that is a real rich relationship, you need some degree of proximity, and that might not just be locational, but that sometimes helps, being able to, like we said, meet up and do all those things. It doesn't need to be really famous people. It doesn't need to be influencers. It doesn't need to be, I observe what you're doing in your career with your projects and I like that. It's not about building transactional relationships here. It's about building relationships, and that can often be done with the people around you, like colleagues, people that are mutual friends, literally, like you said, mutual friends of friends, who's like, I've seen you around, I've seen you hang out with this person, that's also my friend, I want to know more about you. And I think it's beautiful that way, because it's the people that God has brought to cross your path, and that's worth exploring.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
That's a nice question, though, sis. I hope you do find friendship. I think another thing as well, is drop any fears that you have around trusting people. Yes. I think that it's super, like, sometimes when it's romantic relationships, it's easy because we're attracted, we're infatuated, we like the romance and stuff. But with friendships, none of those things are really there. So you actually need to kind of drop your guard down, and you may be thinking like, but why? But it's because, vulnerability in friendship helps friendships become stronger. And you don't have to be vulnerable straight off the bat. But no, if you are trying to build a relationship with someone, you need to display your true self. And as time goes on, the more people prove that they are trustworthy, you can reveal more and more and allow them to get closer and closer into shaping who you are and dealing with the things that you are going through in life. But if you are somebody who maybe has been dealing with like trust issues, or maybe you kind of lost a lot of friends, or people did you wrong, or you've just been kind of a bit of just somebody who's very on their own. You've been a bit recluse, and you've been doing things on your own. You've trusted in yourself. You've trusted yourself. And now you're trying to trust other people. That is a massive learning curve. And I think you have to constantly recheck like where you are in trusting people, and constantly kind of expanding those and exploring those boundaries. So get open to trusting people and loving people again, functionally. I absolutely love that, because I think it was a couple of like days ago, I tweeted something that was like a realization, but I don't want to do this life alone. And I think it's important that we recognize that there's so many different ways that we can journey with people. Romantic relationships obviously being one of them, but there's just something beautiful about having a community of people, but specifically having friends, sisters around you to share that journey with. So it's beautiful. That was a really good dilemma. That's a great dilemma. A great one. We wish you all the best in your relationships and your friendships. Like sisters, like we really want this to be a space where you guys can meet, connect, and create meaningful friendships. I can't wait for us to do like actual link ups. Honestly, like this pandemic, sis, get out of the way. Okay. They need to get out of the way. But I can't wait for us to do like things where we could actually link up with the sisterhood and wherever you are in the world, and just allow you to kind of mingle, not just with us, but with each other, and find friendships there as well. This is it. Oh goodness. That would be great. All coming soon. Don't worry. Corona, your days are numbered, hopefully. Numbered. Hopefully, please be numbered. But now, to go into the meaty, the weighty topics. The conversation at hand. And we're going to be talking about education and university. Yay. So, Miss Courtney. Yes, ma'am. Was going to university important? Oh, for you? Yeah. And why? Yes, it was. University was really important. I have African parents.
Case closed, that's it.
Yeah, and in being a child of the diaspora, second generation immigrant.
Not the child of the diaspora. Coming with that spoken
you
word.
Kind of LOL. No, thank you. Going to university, you kind of have no choice per se. Yeah. Because it's something that's seen as accessible to you, but also I think it was always emphasized as this is a mode of social mobility. And if you want, better life chances, a better future, do well academically. And that's kind of why I pursued like strengthening my intellectual capabilities and like going to university, doing well in secondary school, all of those things, because I knew like literally be all and end all of it is if you want to make money, if you want to be comfortable, if you want to feel secure, you've got to get an education. And that's kind of how it was painted out to me. And I made the most use of that. So going to university for me was actually important. And I think the social mobility aspect was why. How about you?
Very much a similar story insofar as like social mobility. Child of the diaspora, I won't lie. That's definitely something that resonates strongly. Child of the diaspora. But yeah, it was definitely important insofar as like social mobility. And also thinking about like my own personal story of the women in my family. We've had a long line of women having to kind of like give up their education for various other things, whether it be to, raise a family or leave the country and all of that good stuff. So for me, it was very much I'm going to be that one kid, that first female.
The curse breaker.
Generational breaker. Hallelujah. I was going to be the one that, went to school and did it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, university.
And well done.
Thank you, man.
Well done. Because you not only did it, you did it well. You said, I'm a set president. If you don't know, just to give Renee, because I know she won't say it.
Here we go.
Renee, like you come from a background, like you said, like I don't think your parents went to uni. Yeah. And like, but sis went to Oxford, then you did your master's at Harvard, and now your younger sister's going to Cambridge. And like, it's all these things of once you do it, once you go through all the hardship to do something that hasn't been done, you open up a door to possibilities
100%.
For future generations, those 100%. Close to you and those coming. So well done. And I really pray, in fact, I know that the generations that you'll give birth to and that are after you will be so thankful that you did it. So thankful that you did it.
Don't be out here making me cry.
I'm screaming.
We're only a couple minutes in. Get you a Courtney. Actually, no. Get you somebody else because Courtney's.
That is so true.
I always say this. I'm just like, everyone's like, oh, Courtney's so lovely. She's mine. She's not up for sale. She's not up for sale.
I'm currently employed as a best
friend. Full time for the long haul. Maybe you can have her daughter. But not her. But yeah, no, it resonates so strongly because being able to leverage these opportunities and do something different, create a new narrative. Education was definitely fundamental to my journey. I've been doing that, and hopefully, God willing, like my next generation. It'll be very interesting to see what the generation after us will do.
No limits.
Stay tuned for that. But thinking a bit more practically around education and all of that good stuff, was it worth the coins, the monies, the bags?
Student debt.
The funny thing is, we were literally talking about student debt just before this episode.
So I spent around 40 grand on my education, not out of my pocket, obviously loans. Was it worth that much money? Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. There are elements of going to university, especially the universities we went to, that opened up certain doors which could be seen as priceless, right? In terms of the social network that you're exposed to, and also just going to university, the way it makes you think. You're a critical thinker. Though you may have like expert knowledge about, maybe not expert knowledge, but you've got knowledge about a specific field, the way you now know how to research, the way you now know how to learn and discover things and pose arguments and conduct yourself, and then being in a social environment where you're developing your own thoughts and you're interacting with people that you may not have from where, like obviously going to education, you're kind of you're in the same class with the same people for 7 years, right?
Yeah.
You go to the same school in the same area for your entire childhood. Then you might go to university far away from you, or even in your local area, where now people from around the world are going to that place. So you're exposed to so many different cultures. You're exposed to so many different life experiences from yours that it does make you a more rounded, a better rounded human being. I think those elements of university make it worth the money. However, those experiences can be gained in other places. So I think for me, and this might be controversial, I think the only reason why university was really worth the money, was when I was there, I was able to leverage on non-academic things. That leverage paid off. That's what I would say for me. The academic parts of it, the reason why I say that might not have been as worth it was because I don't necessarily work in my field now. I might in the future, but I study political and social sciences. Though we give political and social commentary on here, which is cool, it's not like I don't work in the civil service. I've got friends that, work in certain offices of big people. Like they're involved in politics. They're involved in things to do with social issues and social policy and stuff like that. That's not me. I'm in the media. I'm in entrepreneurship. I don't do those things, though it helps sometimes. That's why I would say and because I didn't go down the route of academia, I didn't get further education. The academics might not have been there, but the other values that you get from university made it worth it for me. But I will definitely say, like I said, those things can be got in other places for less money. That's what I would say, especially because the role of university is really changing.
Yeah, it really is now, isn't it?
I guess we'll talk about that later, but do you have to go to university? These are with the digital age, with all these things that are happening so quick. I mean, I think we mentioned this last episode, you have people becoming millionaires off of a meme cryptocurrency. Why do you need to go to university? Especially in the traditional framing of university, to go to university so you can get a good job to become rich. You can get rich literally any other way nowadays. There's so many other ways. So do those traditional institutions still carry as much weight and power? But how about you? Was university for you worth the money?
Was it worth the money? I feel like for me, it's a bit tricky because I didn't pay as much money as everyone else did to go to university, to be quite honest with you. And I think in that sense, it's actually super helpful. So,
and why?
Yeah, I got a lot of scholarships and bursaries and stuff. Yeah.
They paid for her to learn. Come on.
So for Oxford, I got something called the Moritz Hyman. It might be renamed now, but it's called the Moritz Hyman scholarship. And my tuition fee was actually reduced. So instead of paying 9K a year, I paid 6K a year. And I also got a bursary of 4K per year in addition to everything I got from student finance.
Yeah.
So if you're a incoming student, or you are going to university, or you're currently at university, definitely shop around to find bursaries and stuff, financial support, because they're really out there. Universities actually do love giving help to students, so
and they have the money. Okay.
And they have the money. Where do you think all them tuition fees are going to?
There you go.
They have the money. So there was definitely that. And then when I went to Harvard, of course, I won a full scholarship to go called the
you
Kennedy.
Didn't win, she earned.
The Kennedy Memorial Trust Scholarship, which is definitely still running. I would definitely suggest, if you're interested in going to Harvard, or if you're interested in going to any kind of Ivy League school, have a look at the scholarship fund. That would not have been possible for me. I would never have been able to go to Harvard if I didn't have that scholarship. I did not have 52K to go and be spending on my tuition fee. Can you imagine the tuition fee for Harvard was more than double or triple my total tuition fee to go to Oxford?
You know what? We actually need to talk about that, because the monetization of education and the extremes it has been taken to, especially for postgraduate courses.
Oh gosh.
It's insane, especially because of privatized education, especially at the higher level. To see a master's degree going for 60 to 150K for a year's worth of education, 2 years worth of education, with no guarantee of a job at the other side of it.
This is the thing, no guarantee. So it's very much,
There are issues.
The privatization of education. We'll come on to that in a little while. But in terms of was it worth the money, for me, it was purely because of those facts, right? The fact that it was cheaper, the fact that I got a scholarship. So there was like, you know, ways that I could bend around and it wasn't as detrimental to my pocket.
So then do you think that education is overpriced?
Yes. 100%. I think there's also something to be said about the fact that we are also leveraging really, really good institutions. The fact that we went to your Oxford, your Cambridge and Harvard and stuff like that, these actually do hold weight when you do have conversations, when you apply for jobs and stuff. It might be minimal in some instances, it might be maximal in other instances, but I cannot lie, having those kind of degrees under my belt has opened up doors that that would never have been like possible for me. The people, the network, it's funny as you said, like mostly the non-academic stuff were the most important gains of going to university. The folks that I met at university, especially in an institution like Harvard as well, because it is international, it just stretched my thinking, but more importantly stretched my network such that I could just do things that I wouldn't have dreamed of doing.
You get to explore.
And the experience as well was extremely rich. So in Oxford, I definitely honed my critical thinking, academics, that kind of stuff. The kind of things that would prepare you for a very high pressure job. At Harvard, I would say that it really changed my thinking about life, things in the world. It increased my capacity to hold conversations with people that are radically different to me. Radically different. Like some of my friends that I have in the US, you would never think that we would be friends, but I'm grateful for them because it opens a mode of thinking that is just really important when you are a human being in society. Because I think right now, where we're currently in echo chambers or around people that always are yes men, right? It's really important to make sure that you actually have people that are radically different to you. So I would say it was worth the money for me, but I only say that with a caveat because it was cheaper. Right.
That's so interesting.
Isn't it?
I do think education is formal education is overpriced.
It's crazy overpriced.
I do.
Crazy.
You have to, it's a system that has to be worked.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say. Formal education is a system that has to be worked if you want to make the most of it. And that's not to say if you don't go to like Ivy League, Oxbridge, that your education is wasted. That's not the case at all. You just have to push yourself to do the best. And like I said, you kind of have to play the game a bit because it's all a little bit rigged. I won't lie to you.
It's very much rigged.
Big time. So and strengthen, I think take from this that you need to strengthen the non-academic. Like I've said this before to friends, if you go to university and all you leave with is a degree, you have wasted your time. You can read the books at home. You're going to pay all of this, not just because you're being exposed to all these great academics and stuff like that, unless you want to take it all the way to doctorate level and stuff. But you've got to outline your goals, right? And you've got to make use of all these other factors that you're exposed to at university that will propel your future, your network, extracurricular activities, the ability to make impact. Don't go to university and just, be kind of to yourself. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made when I got to university. I was like, I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm going to focus on my books. And it wasn't until I started speaking out about my opinions, I started to look for ways that I could help improve things at my university, things that I was passionate about and displaying that, creating all these different, I've got student loan money. Let me, start a YouTube channel, buy some equipment, all of that stuff. That's what was actually helping me. And now, I've been doing all of this stuff full time since. So I leveraged that whilst I was at university, and I used that to kind of kickstart me into what I wanted to be doing at the end of it. So set out your goals even before university. And if you don't know what your goals are and you don't want to think that far ahead, that is completely fine. Make the most of the experience in its fullness.
100%. I think that's such a beautiful segue into what
segue is back. I was about to say
it's been a minute, but she's back with a vengeance. We finna segue today. The segueing. Segueing.
We are not serious. We're
not serious, not even a little bit. Segueing into our university experience. Talk to me a bit about your university experience and what you would have done differently, especially for our university babes. We have heard you.
Yeah.
You've been in the DMs. You've been in the emails. We've heard you. We're answering. Don't worry.
Yeah, we are. Okay, so my university experience was overall positive. Like, that's what I usually say. Like, it was a positive experience. In the beginning, I struggled because like I said, I kept my head down and I felt so out of place in the beginning, and I was still getting over so much imposter syndrome throughout my degree that it stopped me from really maximizing what was around me and what I was being exposed to and the opportunities that were there. But one thing I would definitely say I loved about my university experience, it was the first time I was exposed to a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I started to realize in meeting new people, different levels of wealth, different levels of like background and status.
The wealth
different
was quite the wealth.
You'll be talking to somebody and you ain't even know their parent is like the head of the so-and-so company you've been seeing on the news. Okay. Yeah. And that level, it started to make me deep, like, and starting to make me realize there's so much more than what I've known for my entire life, right? That is actually accessible and reachable now because I'm in these spaces. I was being exposed to different ways of thinking. And I think one thing that's interesting is once you become exposed to an idea and you see somebody who has done it or is living it, in terms of earning a certain amount, like people who would be like, yeah, apply for this job. It's, it pays from starting role 50K. And you're like, 50K? My parents don't even make 50K together.
Combined, can you
imagine? What do you mean 50K? Like, this is insane. Yeah. And now you're in a space where that's actually reachable. And you start to think to yourself, oh my days. Like, this is a new world. And I think that's what university I was so thankful for, because it started to make me think, why not? Like, actually, why not? Like, why not? Let's go for it. Let's actually go for it.
Let's do it.
For these big things, which I think that is one of the biggest, the exposure to new ideas and the expansion of your world and your worldview and what you believe is possible is actually really important, especially when you're young. You enter into university, you may be 18, 19 years old, usually. And it starts to make you think, oh, so what could my future be like and stuff like that. So I think that was one of the biggest things that I loved about it from my experience. I wish I had just clocked onto that earlier, because I only really started to do that in my third year. By that time, that was my final year, What would I have done differently? Exactly that. And it's not that I didn't get a first class. You got a first class. I got a high 2-1. But I would have... I think would I have pushed myself to get a first class? I don't think I regret it. I don't think I regret it, because I think whilst people are hammering on at me like, get a first class, I think I knew I don't really want to pursue academia. It's not that important to me, but I felt the pressure and I would often beat myself up. I wish what I did differently earlier at university was outline my goals and not give into the pressure of everyone else. Like, your parents have expectations of you when you go to university. You think you're representing all Black people. You think you're representing people from working class backgrounds. You think you're representing people from your school. Right. And now all of this stuff is in your mind and you're thinking, so many expectations I need to live up to, that you forget to outline your goals for your specific journey and letting that be your main focus, rather than like, okay, you went to university and you didn't get a first class, you must be so disappointed. Well, actually, I left with work experience, a platform, a business, money in the bank.
Absolutely, money in the bank.
If I sacrificed the grade, and that's not important to me. But if your goal is, no, I want to be able to do a master's and I want to be able to go to PhD level, the first class really matters. So that's what you should focus really on. Matters. But it didn't matter for me, because that wasn't my plan. So I wish I had outlined my goals and my plan and stuck to that, rather than trying to beat myself up to conform into other people's expectations, especially in such a high pressure time of my life.
I love that.
But what about you?
I love that so much, Courtney. I think similar in the sense of leveraging university better earlier. I think for me, I was forced into doing it in second year anyways. Because second year was when I really threw myself at extracurricular stuff.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
Exactly.
Societies, access work. Yeah,
do you know how funny we were doing?
We were all in it. We were doing the exact same thing in different
Do you know how crazy that was? Me and Courtney were both ACS president at the same time, which was
having like doing access work, conferences, sponsorship deals. We were having to do it all.
The tears that were shed in second year.
But we had each other to cry on.
This is the thing. That was so special. But yeah, my first year, I kind of like shied away from doing a lot of stuff because of the whole belief that, you know, I was different. And like, I stood out like the chocolate chip in the cookie. That was my favorite thing. Mine
was the pepper and the salt.
It's like, oh, just a bit of heat there. And not understanding that my difference wasn't a disadvantage, but actually leverage. And it was only my second year that I began to use that to my advantage, because being in a societal position like ACS president, you are always visible.
Yes.
You are always visible. You are always the one they come to for comments. You are the one that's behind all of the organizing.
We were 19 and just on the news. You'll just get like, oh, so this is BBC Radio 1. We just want you to hop on this, just to comment on this. And we're also going to be having this local politician. And you're thinking, I have an essay due tomorrow. Last week, I was eating 6 things and chips. Why am I talking next to this political representative on the television?
Life comes at you so fast. They will be asking, listen, if it's one thing that it taught us what to do, it was articulate ourselves very well and very quickly.
And know what you believe
You have to, because people will pick you to shreds.
Yeah.
Not even just in those situations, but even in university in general. The fact that for us going to Cambridge and Oxford, we had tutorials, which meant that we had to defend ourselves and our essays on a weekly basis. Yeah. So if you don't know how to articulate yourself, by God, by the end of first year, you will. Yeah,
tutorial, supervision, seminars, you have to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I think that for a lot of folks that are in university right now, it can seem like a chore going to lectures and stuff like that. But I would definitely say, make sure that you leverage those opportunities, even academically, to actually argue, to engage with all of these kind of things, because these will help you later down the line. It may not be the exact same subject or the exact same thing that you're doing, but make sure that you actually leverage these opportunities to defend yourself, to articulate yourself. It's super, super important. And then also get involved in other things beyond your degree. When I first came to, the funny thing is, it was when I stopped focusing so hard on my degree that I really flourished. I was in my first year, I was focused on the degree. I was like, I came here for the degree. I'm generational curse breaker. And our like mock exams at the end of the year, I just scraped a 2-1. Scraped by my neck. Yeah. And I was like, nah, this is like the ghetto. Yeah. And then my second year, I was like, something is not working. Let me do all of these crazy things. I did ACS president. I joined like drama society, women in business, all sorts of like mad things. And it was by my third year that I was like, I'm starting to manage my time better. Yes. I'm starting to enjoy my time here. I'm starting to meet some really cool people. That by my third year, I was kind of like, okay. Yeah.
You know how to work smart.
Absolutely. I've learned how to work smart. So being able to take all of those learnings and really manifest it in my third year. Now for me, because I had decided, shotgun, that I was going to do a master's degree, that meant that my academic profile meant a lot more. Yeah. And currently I was going off the fact that I had scraped a 2-1 in first year because we didn't do mock exams in our second year. So definitely resonate with what you were saying. Outline your goals, because that will determine the trajectory of your academic career. Yeah. For me, I'm going for a master's. At the time, I was undecided about a PhD. It's on the cards still. But I definitely was like, if I'm doing a master's and I want to do it at Harvard, I need to get a first. 100%. I absolutely need to get a first. And the thing about the environments we were in is it can be very, very, very pressured. And I'm sure a lot of you are going through that right now. Or rather the opposite. You might feel that there's pressure, but you're not really feeling it because of the pandemic or because of the way that, education has been restructured during this time. Outline your goals. What do you want from yourself at the end of university? What does the end goal look like? For me, when it came to like revising and all that kind of good stuff, and we can, I guess, expand in like our mailing list and stuff definitely. Like that with all of the resources and tips and all that good stuff. when it came to my third year, I was very much like, I need to get X amount in, these exams in order to, share my transcript with Harvard. And that became my goal. You need to outline your goal, and you need to be very practical and intentional about how you're going to get from A to B. So for me to get X whatever in this exam, I needed to revise this many hours. I needed to go over this content.
Yeah.
It just needs to be super practical. Everybody will tell you the most fancy and colorful way to revise, and this is a foolproof method of getting 100% in your exams. You cannot skirt around doing the work, and you cannot skirt around having a practical plan that works for yourself.
Yeah, works for you in your uniqueness. Yeah,
absolutely you. So that's something that I would recommend. And then touching on my master's briefly, because there might be a few of you that are you've graduated a while ago, you're thinking about doing a master's or any kind of postgraduate qualification. First of all, you need to figure out, what is the opportunity cost? Will this benefit me, or will this cripple me? Because some people are doing up postgraduate courses, and it's rich coming from me. Some people are doing postgraduate courses that they don't need to do. So for example, you might see a lot of people thinking, I want to own a business or start a business, I'll do an MBA. You don't need it. You don't need it. You'll put yourself in debt. You don't need to.
You know what's so funny? I find that MBAs are kind of for people who want to get to like C-suite level in like a company, rather than maybe founders per se, or 100. Like people who have worked before and maybe now they want to found something else, but they're not even leveraging their education. They're there to leverage the network.
This is it.
The prestige
100%.
And the funding opportunities.
100%.
Oftentimes, if you go to business departments in business schools at a university, that's what they'll tell you they're there
Absolutely. For. And you know why? Because their company pays for it.
But you want to go and take out 150 grand.
What?
Just know, like you said, opportunity cost. What are you getting for the money you're paying, and what do you actually need?
Absolutely. And also leverage existing opportunities. If you want to do a postgraduate course, go and find funders and funding. It's okay. Let somebody else pay for you. I love that. It's great. You are worthy. Okay, you are worthy of somebody paying for your place. If you believe that you're actually going to have impact, and that's part of the reason why, when I was speaking to like some of the folks at the Kennedy Memorial Trust, love them up, shout out to all of my cohort, like they supported me so much throughout my journey at Harvard. They genuinely see you as an investment,
right? And
they put money in you because they believe that you're going to go out and do some really good and cool, interesting stuff in the world.
Yes.
If you believe that of yourself, then why are you not allowing other people to believe that of you? So I would definitely say, in terms of like my recommendations, I would say make sure you scout out for opportunities and do it early, as soon as possible. I think the only thing that I would have done differently academically is do a lot of the things that I ended up doing earlier. Do it earlier. I wish there had been somebody that told me that to, apply to Harvard earlier, because I applied like maybe 2 weeks to the deadline. It was the most stress. And we were doing finals at the time of application. So I was just like, let me not come and die. So yeah, that's what I would say. But yeah, we'll definitely put some tips and tricks in our mailing list, so watch out for that. But pivoting the conversation a little bit to talk a bit more about education more broadly.
Cool.
Now, there's so much controversy around women in education generally. We've touched on it insofar as, desirability of the educated babe and the boss babe. And there's so much content around like women that want to get educated. To be a quote unquote boss babe, do you need formal education?
No, not at all.
Explain.
Not at all. You don't. Why? No. Like
she was affronted. She said no.
No, you don't have to. There's there's respectability politics, right?
Yep.
People may find women who've gone through formal education, more respectable because they've got all these names behind them, these certificates. You've been educated, and it's been stamped by a certificate. But there are other women who prove, I've self-learned, I've self-taught, I've had to cultivate probably even more discipline because I wasn't in the rigid structure of a formal education system. And yet here are the fruits to prove for it. Here are the results to prove for it. Real life experience. Those are the real boss babes. Like those are the real leading women, and leadership isn't something that you can really learn academically. You know, it's something that comes through life experience. It comes through self-development. And a lot of women cultivate that independently through these alternative means of education, which are not formal. And I think that that's a really important thing to emphasize. Like, just because you want to make strides in your career or you want to start a company, like we were just saying, you don't have to go back to university. And I really think the people that need to go to university, the lawyers and the doctors, even the bankers, you can learn that independently. Like, I feel like you don't, obviously some people are going to be like, what? But I genuinely, unless you want to be an academic professional, like an academic expert in your field, and the way the university system or the formal education system is run allows you to do that and get that expert knowledge, then that's great. But actually, a lot of us are not looking to be experts. We're looking to just get enough information to then go and do. But if you're in a situation where you've already got a lot of information through, you know, other forms of education, just go and do. That's all you need. The proof is in the pudding. Were you able to perform? A lot of us are showing through life. We're starting the businesses, we're starting the projects, we're doing the initiatives, we're doing the social activism without the university degrees in those things, purely out of passion, purely out of talent that has been nurtured. So I don't think you need to be, I don't think in order to be a boss babe, you must be formally educated at all. And it depends what you're trying to be a boss babe in. Like, that's what I said. If you're trying to get a doctorate, of course, if you're trying to have that doctor before your name, you've got to go. But if you're just trying to create, you know, a unicorn company, you don't.
Yeah, you don't.
Unless it's the leverage you need. If you're actively being kept out of the next stage of your success plan because you lack a formal education, then cool, go and get one. But if that's not the case, do everything you can to not have to pay that money. That's what I say.
This is true. I think to be a boss babe, you need education, but not a formal education. Nope. And I think there's so much hype around formal education, which is institutionalized education.
It's respectability.
It's respectability politics. It literally is. And that's not to downplay the fact that we have actively been privileged to access what we have access
100%.
to. But there are definitely other ways in to being a boss, depending on what you choose to do.
Yeah.
And that's where the research comes in. There's a lot of alternative, not even just within formal education. A lot of us just think university. There's also apprenticeships. There's also vocational training.
100%.
There's all sorts of things that you can do as a route into what you want to do.
And then there's self-paced learning.
Learning, which is great and free for the most part. Or a lot.
Very cheap.
Absolutely. So I think it's just, I definitely agree. It's just very much about being intentional about your own education and choosing the type of education that's right for where you want to make boss moves in.
Spot on.
But now that we've spoken a bit about, the boss babe and formal education, do you think that education is important for women? And what do you see its utility for women across the world?
Education is important.
Yeah.
And that will never change. Education of any kind. I genuinely believe, and I was seeing this talked about recently, when you educate women and when you give them access to a formal education, you actually better the nation. You actually better 100%. The economy, you better society, you better families. The world becomes stronger and better when women are educated, right? The stats are out there. Go and learn about it. Life chances are improved across the board when women are educated. And whilst we can sit here, in Western, exactly what you said, we've privileged from formal education, right? We can sit here and be like, education, don't bother with it because, there's the internet, you could become this crypto queen, whatever.
Yeah.
There are women across the world who don't have that, and education is their only way out of their situation. I think that is a really important thing to emphasize when we are talking about formal education. It is necessary. It is so important. And people should not be held back from being formally educated just because they are a woman. If there are resource issues, we should actually create initiatives that allow young women, young girls to be educated and not allow poverty, for example, to hold them back from that. Because like we said at the beginning, it's a huge mode of social mobility.
100%.
In order to maybe get into a new level of job, be able to be hired as something, or to even start your own business or something like that, you are going to need a certain level of education, informal or formal, but you need access to that. And we've done a lot of work in university and now outside of university relating to access to education for young working class ethnic minority students, and it's because we know the value of it. Absolutely. So for women, like the utility of education for me, it will always be about social mobility. It will always be about improving life chances. It will also be about autonomy and power. You can easily be manipulated when you don't have education, because you don't know how to decipher things for yourself. Everything is dictated to you. And I think being exposed to education and taking it seriously and allowing yourself to go through that process and being allowed to go through that process of formal or informal education allows for you, like you were saying, to shape your own opinions and not let other people dictate to you what the world should be for you and what the world should look like for you. And I think that is one of the major values of education for modern day women. The world shouldn't be dictated to you by someone else's lens. You should actually form your own understanding, your own perceptions, and your own way of critically assessing what's happening around you, what's happening globally, especially with the things that will affect you as a woman. Yeah. What about you?
Ooh, I think you summed it up perfectly, actually, insofar as just everything that you said. I think that's it. Cut the cameras. Dead ass. But no, this is something that's especially close to my heart, because this was obviously my major in my master's. We are very much privileged as women in the West. Even that, we don't have too much time to go into that, but there are some problems when we start talking about the idea of development and progress, and the fact that the West is always seen as the beacon of progress, the standard, the leaders, the global North. But that's for another day. However, in terms of access to education, access to the tools that will allow women to form critical thought, I think it's doubly important, because we live in a world where, for the large parts of the world are governed by patriarchy. There are obviously matriarchies and other, decentralized policies and stuff like that. But in a global society that has been, for the most part, what is the word? In a global society that has been impacted by patriarchy, it is very important that we make sure that women are given the tools needed to dismantle, first of all, and then actively rebuild. Because we can't ignore the fact that a lot of the education that we receive can be used for political means, right? I love what you were saying about the fact that, it's important for women to not have the world dictated to them. So ensuring that women actually have the tools needed to dismantle that and then actively rebuild is top of the agenda. 100%. And this access, it very much is, it's spread across the world, right? Some people have more access than others. And I think that what I love about our community, to my sisters, and it's something that we repeat all the time, this is not a community where we are telling you what to think. We tell you what we think, and we encourage you to form your own opinions. So even that, this is part of our wider attempt to really start rolling out education that allows women to develop critical thinking. And that's really it for me. I think critical thinking is so important. I think there's baseline, everyone should have access to baseline civic education. So just understanding, society in general, but then critical thinking. How do you come to form an opinion? How do you come to think about the world? How do you come to think about people? And most importantly, why? Why?
I love what you said, dismantle and rebuild. Because I think it's so easy to just, as women, have to accept what you're told, the fact that society is this way, and not know that actually there are tools out there that you can possess,
100%.
And you should be allowed to possess as, to be honest, a human right to be able to construct a new reality in some sense and actually find out what the truth is through your own opinion. So dismantle and rebuild.
100%. And I love what you were saying about the link between power and education. Because, let's actually talk about it. Why is it that educated women are always seen as a threat?
Ooh.
Why?
people because they can't be controlled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the educated woman is the beast that can't be put down. All of a sudden, the educated woman is trying to be more like a man.
It's emancipation.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, the educated women will not want to stay and be domesticated and look after the family. Some will and some won't. Why is that a problem?
This is it. And it's because you want to control, you want to dictate. Education allows you to choose. And I think that that's the power and the autonomy that we are talking about, because there will be women who are educated, and through their education and through their new tools of thinking, critical thinking, they will reach the conclusion that I actually do want to stay at home, like, and be a housewife, or the opposite. I'm not made for that. Both are equally as valid. The one thing that shouldn't happen in society is women being dictated to what the role they should play is. And I think that that's, hopefully we all know that by now. Hopefully.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. It'd still be coming up. What's the word? Try not to sound too intellectual, too educated. Don't challenge.
Don't be intimidating.
Don't be intimidating.
Don't be overpowering.
Don't be overbearing.
Yeah. But if the world needs your way of thinking. Absolutely. The world needs whatever talents and whatever gifts and whatever strengths that you have and opinions you have for impact. Like you're saying, it's about impact. What impact are you going to have on the world, on your society, in your community? And that won't happen if you're silent. And oftentimes it's easy to stay silent when you do not feel confident that your opinion matters, or that it has been developed well enough. I don't feel as educated as everybody else. And I think one thing that education gives you, which is actually really vital, is confidence. Yeah. It gives you confidence to know, even though I might be wrong, I think this is how I think. And I feel like I'm in education puts you in an environment where people are constantly asking you, what do you think? Yeah. Voice it out. Like you were saying about supervisions and tutorials and things like that, where you have to, even essays, this is what I think, and you have to learn to be confident. Education does bring a certain level of confidence that women need.
100%. And I think a balance does need to be maintained, because I have definitely seen, both on social media but in person, where someone thinks that they are qualified just because they're educated.
It's the arrogance of it.
There's very much a distinction. Not everybody is qualified to talk on certain topics. Yeah. I don't care if you have 5 degrees from 6 institutions. I don't care. I think that, there's one thing to have confidence, but be careful that it does not lead to arrogance. And don't think that because you have access to certain tools to articulate yourself, that your point is more valid than somebody else's. Because somebody will try and spin you online in an intellectual manner using all sorts of, unnecessarily
jargon
verbose, everywhere. And it's like, you can't even understand what you're saying, but because you think it sounds articulate, you've come to do intellectual, and you're weaponizing it. Exactly.
And that's, I think, one of my biggest issues about it. When you're at university, or when, not even when you're in university, when you're in certain academic spaces having academic conversations, or even conversations particularly about political and social issues, people will, like you said, they bring out all the words. All of it starts coming into play. And they're using it to make you sound stupid. Do you get what I mean? Absolutely. And make them sound like a subject expert. And I often used to find that people would, for example, be talking about working class people. Yeah. They'll say all these things. And when it comes to listening to other people's lived experiences and what they're saying, they think because they've learned the theory that they can explain your lived experience better than you can, because they're using better language than you are. And the thing is about education is, yes, it gives you the tools that allow you to have power and autonomy in your own life, but it doesn't give you power and autonomy over other people, because then you become a part, an active member in a system which isn't fair. And that has actually led to a lot of women being disenfranchised, a lot of women being kept out of universities, a lot of women being kept out of education. And you don't want to partake in that. If you're trying to be a part of the difference, do not use those same weapons against people.
Absolutely. Oh, I think it's Audre Lorde, the quote.
You cannot use the master's tool to dismantle the master's house.
Absolutely. Careful. Listen, you must dismantle, not replace.
Yeah.
Some of us have got the two confused.
Ooh.
We're dismantling here. We're not replacing.
We're just reproducing. We can't do that.
But to wrap up the conversation a little bit, thinking about alternative routes to education and reimagining education of the future for women.
Yeah.
What are some ways that women can invest in their education at whatever stage of life they're at?
Yeah.
And what does that look like for them practically?
That is so cool. I think, like you mentioned, a few apprenticeships and vocational schemes or whatever forms of education, training programs and academies wherever you are in the world. But I think also that self-education that can be done, right? The access to books, online courses, buying books, but listening to audio books or the podcasts that are available, YouTube videos, the amount of education on there is crazy. But also other alternative platforms, Udemy, Skillshare, all these things like Coursera, I think is another one. All these other things, even if you want to learn a language, learn Duolingo, use Duolingo, something like that. Things that allow you to expand your horizons. A lot, because of the digital and technological era, a lot has been done in those spaces. EdTech is out there and it's accessible to everybody 100%. As long as you're looking for it. And I think that that's a thing. Actively go out and look for it. Be active in your pursuit of education. And it doesn't have to be formal. And a lot of times these alternatives are so much better because they're so much cheaper. But they also rely on you being extremely disciplined and putting to use that which you learn. And this is not just, reading loads of self-help stuff, because I think sometimes we do it to dupe ourselves into thinking we're being productive. That's not it. Actually learn subject specific stuff, actually research. Like Google Scholar is something that I love all the time. If I want to read a quick PDF, a quick article into research, so that I have just an expanded amount of knowledge. And another thing I love about the internet is there's a lot of collective information. So you can read a blog post where someone has already read the original stuff and is putting together, and it's basically opinion pieces, and you can use all of that. Don't get stuck in echo chambers, but you can use all of that to form your own opinion critically. I think that is one of the most beautiful things about the internet. It's the decentralization of information. Anyone can access information. You just got to search for it. Google is your best friend. I would just keep it that simple. How about you?
Oh, Courtney, I think you've summarized it so well. I don't even know if I have anything to add to that. Utilize the internet. You heard her, guys. Like, actually utilize
You got it at your disposal.
YouTube. Do you know how many things I've picked up from YouTube?
What?
Too many
The infographic show. You love TED Education. Like, there's so much information on YouTube. It's so crazy. Many podcasts, so many people have put the content out there. Soak it up, create time for that. And I think, wow, this is really your time to talk.
I'm screaming.
Doing entirely too much.
No, but I was living for it, especially infographics. I had a moment there because I don't think you understand how much random information I've soaked up from just the infographics show.
Random quotes, random
facts that you don't need to know but will help you in a pub quiz.
But
yeah, no, definitely use the internet if you have access to it, and also use other people. If there are folks in your community that are particularly knowledgeable about something you're interested in, hit them up. There are so many folks in my community that are interested in money, investing, content creation, all of that stuff. It's always worth just being humble and going, hey, I see that you are doing really well in XYZ. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Spot on.
And get to learning. Understanding that learning is something that's ongoing and that there's so many resources that you can tap into is literally the most important skill that you can have 100%. In forever. 100%. The ability to learn and being teachable is really important, because it's one thing to learn and stuff, but it's also to be teachable. If you are somebody that can be taught, you will never ever lack. You will never lack, because some of us are also too we become prideful in our journey.
This is it.
We become prideful and think that we have all the information, we know all there is to know about X, Y, Z.
Never assume you know it all.
Never assume, because one curveball will come and level your field so dramatically that you have to start from even square one.
This is it. And you don't want to put a cap on your capacity. As soon as you start to think, I know enough, you've limited how much more you can know.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you, there is so much more out there. So much more to know that is of benefit to you and benefit to the world, because the world is constantly changing. So constantly push yourself to learn more.
Always push yourself to learn more.
Yeah.
And that is the bottom line.
Yeah. Educate yourself, sis. Get educated.
Let's what did you say?
Get educated.
Cut the cameras. I can't.
But yeah, no, yeah, get educated.
We've had 2 cut the cameras.
Dead ass.
One episode. But no, soak up. Use as many resources to your disposal, including TMS. That's what we're here for, to get you up to scratch. And we really hope that you enjoyed that conversation. So much so that we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh, that was nice.
Education. Did you see why I
that
did
was
that?
Nice.
Did you see?
That was sweet.
Well, let me just move my bag. Well, shiver me timbers and call me Joseph.
Oh, what a mess.
Okay. In all seriousness, let us know what you have to say about formal and informal modes of education, as well as what is the role of education in your life, and more widely, how can education be used as a tool to liberate the sisters?
Love that.
You can always let us know this by @ing us on Instagram @ToMySisterhood, or of course come say hi to us personally @CD Boateng and @Renee Kapuku.
And you can @us on Twitter. We want to hear your thoughts. Use the hashtag #ToMySisters or same handle @ToMySisterhood. We really hope that you have enjoyed this conversation. As always, we will talk to you very soon. If you haven't already, subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And we will talk to you in our next conversation, a juicy one. As always, keep glowing and growing.